Hey folks, want to let our Bay Area listeners know about a way you can see the Vicious Cycle hosts live. We'll be appearing at Sleepover with Sam and Molly on August 15th, 7 p.m. at Piano Fight in San Francisco. Sleepover is a variety show hosted by Sam DeSalvo and Molly Sanchez, and it's dedicated to nostalgia, comedy, and staying up past lights out. That's our kind of party. So we will be there singing our hits from the podcast, so check out our Facebook page for a link to tickets. Now on to our regularly scheduled programming.
And welcome to Vicious Cycle, the podcast about periods and the people who get them. I'm Kate.
I'm Meg T.
And I'm Meg H.
Meg H chewing a pretzel. She wasn't ready for us to hit record.
Oh, God.
So thanks for joining us, everyone. We are continuing our series on tampons and talking about all the things you should have known, wanted to know, don't know.
Didn't know you didn't know.
Didn't know you didn't know. And
we should do a song right now.
Okay.
Tampon song.
Don't. It's too much pressure.
You tamp me right round. No.
Tampon me love.
Everybody tells me so.
Tampon me love.
No.
When I'm bleeding monthly and I don't feel all right.
I put in that Super Plus and
Makes
make
me
it
feel all right.
I was going to say, and make sure it's there tight. I don't care too much for maxi pads. Anyway, all right.
I was trying to think of a beautiful
Great
song.
job.
So in this episode, Meg Hayes is going to bring us some bleed search on tampon health and the environment and just, the science of the tampon. But first, you guys, I want to do something first.
Okay.
I want to play you guys a phone call we got. So after we did the call-in episode where people called in and told us their first time stories.
Oh, yeah.
We got a few more. And one of them in particular made me, as the kids say, lol. And I want you guys to listen to it.
I don't think kids say that anymore.
I don't think either. I think a bunch of 35-year-olds say that.
10 years ago, kids were saying that.
Let me pull it up real quick. All right, here we go.
Oh my gosh, guys, it's Molly Sanchez. You are so funny. You're so thoughtful. This podcast is so necessary. Oh, I'm just so glad to be your friend. Okay, so my first time. So I read Judy Blume as a young girl. And Judy Blume makes it seem like periods are this bitchin' thing that everybody really wants to have. So I read a bunch of Judy Blume books one summer and was like, fuck, when am I gonna get this period? I'm so excited. And I was so excited to get it that I actually faked it for the first time. So I was probably 10 or 11. And I really wanted to get my period. My brother used this pink Tweety Bird toothpaste. So it's like, pink is the color of periods, no? So I put some of that toothpaste on my underwear and just a little tiny dot of pink toothpaste on my underwear. And so later in the day, I called my mom and I'm like, Mother, I have begun my period. And she looks at it, and God bless my mom. She's like so sweet. She's like, "Oh, are you sure that you didn't cut yourself or accidentally have an owie or something on your vagina?" And I was like, "No, Mother, I'm a woman now." She's like, "Okay." So she showed me, pads that she had bought for me, and I put one on. And I didn't know that, periods are a thing that keeps happening. I thought, one and done, baby, done. So I was like, that'll show her. I got it, done, over with. So when I actually got my real period, it was probably 2 years later. And I had a morning where I really fought with my mom. I was really snappy and nasty. I was just stressed about it all day. And feeling so grumpy that I was mad at my mom. And I came home and I took out my pants And there was not one little beep of blood. There was like I'm going to say like a big like whoosh of like brown blood there. And so I was like, oh no, now I'm actually a woman. So I called my mom crying, and I'm like, I'm sorry for fighting with you, and also I lied to you. I just got my period for real. I'm really scared.
Oh man. Okay.
Molly.
It was brown.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey.
Again. Hey now.
Hey now.
Hey now.
So
Oh, wow.
funny. Oh, so good. So funny.
Wow.
That's
Molly.
amazing. And just little pink toothpaste. I mean, part of me thinks that her mom was probably like, okay, that smells minty, Molly.
Why does it smell like bubble yum?
I also love how in Molly's retelling of the story, she's a 55-year-old woman, mother. Molly, thank you so much
We
for
love you,
that
Molly.
amazing phone call. If anyone else out there ever faked their period, please let us know.
Please.
9106 Uterus. Call us.
Yeah.
Tell us your story.
So I am going to talk to you guys about 7 problematic things about tampons.
Ooh.
I'm going to
fantastic.
mainly reference a Bustle article from Rachel Krantz from May of 2015. And I'll sprinkle in some other research that I did. Okay. Number 1. The FDA does not regulate ingredients used in feminine hygiene products.
Oh my God. I just learned this recently.
Fun.
That is insane.
Go fuck yourself.
Everything else is regulated, right? Like lotions. But
Right.
it seems like you're putting something up your
It's
hoo-ha.
fucking
Yeah.
stupid. Okay. So feminine hygiene products overall, the umbrella, FDA doesn't require us telling us what ingredients are being used. Even like a menstrual cup. Like we don't know what type of plastic was used or what toxins or whatever
Yeah.
were used
Or
to
at least
create
the
that.
company doesn't have to.
They don't have to tell us
Yeah.
jack shit. So the FDA does, though, require that the performance claims made in the advertisements match, like, what they actually do. So someone was quoted like, yeah, I've definitely seen, like, gone to see how they test the absorbency, but I don't know what the fuck's in them. Like, they have to be, if they say they're going to absorb blood, they have to do that, basically. The FDA requires that.
Okay,
They
but-
advertise
sure.
appropriately.
But they don't tell us like what
What is
that
in
cotton
them.
is
Right.
made
No.
of. Okay.
So we have to start making the ads say that they won't kill us, and then they have to prove that.
I guess. Great idea, Meg.
Perfect.
So that's number 1. Okay. Number 2, our vaginas are hella absorbent. Our vages are lined with permeable mucous membranes, which protect the body from bacteria, but which can also easily absorb or be irritated by chemicals. These membranes are filled with blood vessels, which means like anything that we absorb can easily get into our bloodstream.
That's why, because there was that thing going around where like people were soaking their tampons
Yes,
in vodka, and
exactly.
they were like, "Don't do that."
To get
Yeah.
drunk and putting
Yeah.
it in them.
Yeah. So that's like
They referenced that. They were like, yeah, you know that fad of how you get wasted with vodka laden tampons? Like, that's how absorbent our
Guys,
bodies
let's do an
are.
episode where we do that and then do an episode
Let's do
recording
it.
in the hospital.
Oh my God.
Aunt Deanna will not approve. Also, my cousin Kelly texted me after that episode, and she's like, you curse as much as you want. Hi, Kelly. Love you. Oh, yeah. So I guess there's... they referenced that studies show that estrogen can be absorbed vaginally 10 to 80 times the rate of taking it orally.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh. So maybe that's what like NuvaRing.
Yeah, so it basically shows how absorbent our vaginas are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Our vaginas are amazing.
They are.
Okay.
I mean, straight up.
They can absorb goose fat. They can absorb
As we talked about in last episode.
honey and
Papyrus.
earth from the Nile. So yeah, they're hella absorbent. So that means, they probably absorb the pesticides and chlorine that may or may not be in our tampons.
Sweet.
Having fun yet?
I mean, yeah, chlorine is in tampons. Why?
Number 3, pesticides aren't great for your vagina. I think I don't remember if I renamed some of these or if this is legitimately from the Bustle article. Women's Voice for the Earth has found a wide variety of chemicals and pesticides can contaminate cotton tampons, including, and this is fun, also just frame of reference, if you can't pronounce an ingredient, it maybe shouldn't go up your vagina.
Fair point.
Good tip.
Prosimidon and piperonyl butoxide, which the EPA deem a probable human carcinogen.
Ah, why are they in tampons?
Yikes.
What?
Are these in current tampons or tampons of
Yes.
yesteryear?
No, I believe these are current.
Oh, jeez.
It
my
also
God.
says, shockingly, not much research into the risks women are exposed to has been done.
Of course not.
And that was
Yeah.
that I saw that in multiple articles. So it's kind of like maybe not. Number 4, there are unknown long-term effects of chlorine bleaching, and what happens when you insert something with chlorine inside of you.
I mean, yeah, I kind of want to hear somebody who designs tampons reason for.
Well, one reason for chlorine is that it's cheaper because the natural way to bleach the cotton is to use hydrogen peroxide, which I think people do that, if you buy a tampon that's chlorine free, they're probably using hydrogen peroxide, but it's pricier. So a lot of big companies use chlorine.
But is it just purely to make the tampons white, or is it also like a
That's a
hygienic
really
thing?
good question. I don't know.
So I'm like, I don't give a shit if my tampon's white.
I mean, it's cotton, so it's naturally white. So I would assume it's some sort of
Yeah,
cleaning.
right.
Because hydrogen peroxide I use to gargle sometimes.
Yeah.
It can be used as like a cleaning
Right. I used to
agent.
put it in my ears.
Yeah.
I don't totally know why. Looking back.
Maybe that's why I
did
can't
I
hear
do
out of my
that?
left
Maybe that's why you
ear.
all sound like this.
So, here you go, Meg. Chlorine is used to whiten and disinfect raw materials, but it leaves behind these dioxin residues in the fibers of the tampon. Again, this is all from this Bustle article.
Dioxin, which is the thing that we learned can cause endometriosis in monkeys.
There you go.
Remember?
Oh.
Dioxin.
Dioxins are carcinogens, which are cancer-causing agents. They've also been linked to abnormal tissue growth,
Endometriosis.
Yep. So when we pull a tampon outside of our body, small parts of these fibers sometimes break off and hang outside our vaginal canal. These fibers can create a breeding ground for bacteria, and that's where toxic shock can happen.
Okay.
And it's as I said, it's not the only sterilizing option. You could also do hydrogen peroxide, but it's more expensive. So not a lot
So
of
they use
companies do it.
chlorine to save money.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, cool.
Psych.
Way to get him, Meg.
There is a huge environmental footprint as well that tampons can cause. This article says average women use 11 to 16,000 tampons. You said on the higher side, over 16,000 in their lifetime. And a lot of these use plastic applicators that don't biodegrade. Also, chlorine bleaching can fall into our oceans and can kill animals. And pesticides can also affect our air quality. The pesticides used for the cotton. Because we forget cotton's just a crop. So if you
Right,
think
right.
of any issues we have with food being food that we eat having pesticides, like cotton has the same issue.
Yep.
So there was an estimate. There's this, I guess, publication called Natural Savvy, and they estimated that by using plastic-laden feminine hygiene products, we add the equivalent of 180 billion plastic bags to our waste system. That seemed shocking to me, and I've never heard of that publication before, so I would take it with a grain of salt. But Bustle used it, so.
That's depressing.
Yeah. So basically, the most eco-friendly product to use are menstrual cups. After that would be tampons with a cardboard applicator or no applicator at all. Yeah. I know.
Period finger.
We talked about this.
I know. I still love my pearls.
Clutch my pearls.
Get your hands off my pearls. Number 6. Plastic in and around your pussy isn't the greatest. The average pad is equivalent to 4 plastic bags. according to this article.
The average pad is the equivalent to 4 plastic bags.
Guys,
Guys, I don't-
surrounded in plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got to have that kind of plastic bottom.
Maybe we should go back to goose oil, you guys.
Hey,
Hey,
Oh, what was
Earth
it
and
called?
honey,
Was it
that's-
goose fat?
take a
Oh,
trip to
yeah.
the
Who's
Nile. I've always wanted to see Egypt.
You guys.
Oh, yeah. Also, like, pads aren't great either. There's the whole next
Right.
thing is about chemicals like BPA and BPS disrupt embryonic development and are linked to heart disease and cancer, and they can be on your pads. So that's why the title of this heading is like plastic in and around your pussy, right? So even if your pussy is like resting on a pad, pads still don't have to divulge what ingredients are used. Also, synthetics and plastics just in and around your vagina don't really help with like airflow, so you could get bacteria in there, yeast infections and the like.
That's redonkulous.
Yeah. Fun times. And number 7, there's very little research and not enough data to support any of these things. Like I said earlier, there's not many studies of how women are affected long-term by all of these things.
Okay, so like, this is so upsetting, but maybe this is me just being like defensive, or maybe it's me just being optimistic, but like,
Because you love your tampon?
because I love my tampons.
Yeah.
And my pads.
It's okay. I've got some positives.
Like, it's the same way I sort of feel about like germs in general.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't died yet.
Right, exactly.
I haven't
And-
died yet. I don't have, for all I know,
Yep.
any dioxins in my hoo-ha.
Yes.
Like, so I'm like, yes, 100%. I'm not trying to like discount all this stuff, but it's like, but we're fine, right? Like,
Yes.
we are fine.
So there was a Vogue article that I read, and it started by quoting Lena Dunham, who was giving a shout out to Lola, and Lola's company, who has organic tampons.
Yeah, they're very like very organic, and they offer like all sorts of hygiene products, including like lube and condoms.
Yeah.
And they're open about their ingredients.
Yeah.
I would say so.
I think they say that's like only 4 ingredients or something.
So basically, this part of this Vogue article, they interviewed a doctor named Dr. Lena Nathan, and she basically said it's good to know what substances we're being exposed to. It's a great, organic cotton tampons are a great choice for women seeking more natural and transparent options, but it's not mandatory. She said, we haven't seen a connection to drugstore tampons and an increase in hormonal issues, abnormal tissue growth, immune system issues. She says we haven't seen any like concrete evidence that we're seeing an increase in any of those things because of tampons.
Okay.
Which made me breathe a little bit easier.
Right.
She said what toxins we encounter via tampons are small compared to what we encounter in our daily life, which is like both good and bad. Great. Also, she said, though, that this could be a lack of interest in the topic. There aren't that many studies showing the long-term effects. So she also agreed that people just aren't that – people meaning men, legislators, aren't really interested in putting much money into this. Right. And she said that she would be really interested to see targeted studies on the long-term effects of all of these things in our tampons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're saying, we haven't died yet. There isn't like a shocking increase in
Cervical
any of those
cancers,
areas. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there is.
Well, also, so in getting into toxic shock.
Yeah, I want to know. I feel like toxic shock was something that was always like lorded over us, but I don't know anyone that's ever had it.
Yeah, and I think that we could probably do an extension episode if we reach out to people that have actually had it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know Tiffany Haddish has talked about it. I heard an interview.
She had it? Tiffany Haddish?
Yeah.
The comedian.
Yes.
Wow.
And for her, it was like immediate. Like she put it inside of her and she was in the hospital.
What?
It was immediate.
Wow.
Yeah. So I wonder if people have that reaction or if it's like, I left it in.
Too long.
Because like,
Right.
yeah, that's the fear, right?
So what? Yeah.
So toxic shock is very rare. And it I think is connected to the use of rayon, which is still used in tampons, and prolonged use and high absorbency, which I said earlier, I think. So in 1982, the FDA required that labels advise that the people using tampons use the least absorbency necessary.
Yeah.
Again, they're not telling us what's in the products. They're just saying if you don't need a super tampon, don't use it.
Right. Thanks. Super helpful.
Thanks. And then in 1990, they introduced a consistent language like light, regular, and super tampons, so people had an understanding of what the absorbency level is.
Okay.
And there has been a decrease in toxic shock, which could have to do with the fact that companies removed the following from tampons: polyester, carboxymethicellulose, polyacrylate rayon.
I know her.
Yeah.
Polly.
However, they still use the highly absorbent viscous rayon.
Jesus.
Viscous rayon.
so-
Also, wait, let me just count the number of letters that are in this ingredient. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20, 22 letters.
What is that? What is the word?
Gonna go forget it again. Carboxymethylcellulose.
Going back to your pro tip, I think if we can't pronounce it, it shouldn't be in our
Shouldn't
vagina.
be in our
us.
pussies. Thank you.
yeah.
One positive is I found stories of 2 female congresswomen from New York who have introduced bills to kind of help in these areas. Carolyn Maloney has introduced the Robin Danielson Feminine Hygiene Products Safety Act, and it was named after a woman who died from toxic shock.
Oh, jeez.
wow.
She has introduced this bill 10 times.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
It's never gone out of committee.
Wow.
The act demands independent testing of all feminine hygiene products by the National Institute of Health and then making those findings public. Not radical at all.
So is like a
Right.
big rayon paying off some like Republican
the rayon
senators?
lobby.
Jeez.
I know. Who knew that? I know feminine hygiene products are a lobby, I guess, that are powerful.
Or
So
the
she's been-
chemicals in them, you know.
Yeah, so she's been
Yeah.
trying to do this for over a decade,
Wow.
well over a decade. And the latest thing I saw was in 2017. So I would love to reach out to her to see like the status of this bill
Do it.
to see
Yeah,
if we
do
can
it.
call people. I also found another congresswoman from New York State as well, named Grace Meng, and she introduced the Menstrual Products Right to Know Act, which would require feminine hygiene products to tell us what's in their products. So, women are getting shit done. This is why it's important to have female politicians, because I mean, I don't know if for sure these women are Democrats or Republicans, but I feel like women on both sides of the aisle have to deal with periods.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that like more women in general is going to help highlight these
Absolutely.
issues.
Absolutely.
So maybe I'll reach out to those women. It'd be
cool.
amazing to talk to them.
Yeah.
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 I found a little info, not that much, but it was interesting enough where I want to read it to you. And I have a question, so don't let me forget I have a question. Okay, so this is from a Washington Post article from March of 2016. And the headline is, "Women are still getting toxic shock syndrome and no one quite knows why." Since December of 2015, there had been 5 reported cases of menstrual-related toxic shock syndrome in the state of Michigan. So that was between December and March.
Okay.
According to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, the state has seen an average of fewer than 4 cases annually over the last decade. And so then 5 women in 4 months got TSS. Linked to tampon usage caused by the bacteria Staphylococcus aureus or
So staph infection?
or
maybe?
Streptococcus
Got it.
pyogenes. Maybe both of them, and considered to be life-threatening. The sudden disease increase in TSS cases is both notable and worrisome. The young women are linked by the feminine hygiene products they were using. 4 of the 5 were using super absorbency tampons.
Okay.
And 4 of the 5 were using brand Playtex Sport. Sorry to call a bitch out, but Playtex,
Shit.
not looking too good. There was one case involving You by Kotex. Anywho, that's interesting, because my question is, if you've successfully used tampons for a while, are you still at risk? Or like,
I did
know?
read that it usually happens in women under 30. I don't know why that is. Maybe because through our research we know that as you get older, your periods tend to get lighter. Not always,
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
I think
when
we
you're
could-
younger, you need heavier
Yeah.
absorbent. I just looked up the symptoms of toxic shock just to remind everybody. It could be. I mean, it sounds like it could be anything, but pain areas in the abdomen or muscles, high fever, chills, dizziness, fainting, fatigue, peeling or rashes, vomiting, sore throat, mental confusion. I guess, if you're experiencing any of those things, just go see a doctor.
Go to the doctor.
I actually called my mom today because I knew we were going to be doing something on toxic shock. And because I remember her telling me that my grandma had toxic shock.
Oh, wow.
And so it always sort of stuck with me because she would, have you taken your tampon out? And I would tell her like, oh yeah, whatever. It's like maybe. And she was like, well, grandma had toxic shock, so just be careful. And I called her today and I was like, Mom, I remember you telling me when I was younger that grandma had toxic shock. Like, can you tell me a little bit about that? She goes, oh, no, I think one time her tampon just got stuck in her. She had to go to a doctor. I don't think she ever had toxic shock. And I was like, Mom, why would you say that? She's like, it was just a way to get you to change your tampon.
Just terrifying you.
I'm like, so thanks for all the truth, Mom. Love that. Love it so much. Honesty.
Man.
Awesome. No, but no, that's interesting. I've always wondered about that. And I did remember reading that like there were a lot of cases in like the 70s and 80s. So when we were growing up, it was probably like still fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and in hearing about how the FDA actually can be helpful in lowering TSS, it sounds like it's gone down since all of those disgusting ingredients were taken out.
Yeah.
But rayon still lives on. Fuck you,
Rayon lives on.
Vicious, 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 vicious cycle.
I have some fun tampon jokes for you because when I was doing this research, I was like, "Fuck my life." I will say
lighten it
that
up.
doctor from UCLA made me feel a little bit better. Like,
Right.
okay, well, we would have been seeing like, we're not seeing like a notable like, terror of using over-the-counter tampons.
Right.
And sometimes people can't afford organic tampons.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
use
That's-
what you can.
That's my question is
Yeah.
like, if I switch, what's that going to do to my budget,
Right. I mean, the nice thing about what I just bought, I think it's called L from Target. It's from Target. It's easy to get, and
Yeah.
it didn't feel like a whole ton of money.
Cool.
I think it was like $9 for a tub.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, not bad at all.
Tub. That sounds like a
Tub
lot.
of tampons.
So I've got some tampon jokes. I will say there's some great tampon or period related memes. I feel like that is really where the comedy lies online. So this is a fun thread where I'm assuming a bleeder called Neon Justice says, when you have your period, do you ever take a shower and stand there in the water and watch all the blood go down the drain and pretend that you just survived a gang battle and it's like a really dramatic time for you? And then a person who I assume is a man responds and says, is this what girls fucking think about? And then another bleeder says, we get our period one time a month every month from ages 12 to 55. That's a lot of fucking blood. We might as well try to make it fun.
That's so funny. I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever been bleeding so much that I can see it go down the drain.
Really?
Yeah.
I have.
But as soon as you said that, I thought of the movie Psycho.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Good times. And then this one says, when you ask if anyone has a spare tampon, and they do. And it just shows the final scene from Thelma and Louise where they drive off and holding hands.
Oh, that's so true.
And then this one says, it's so fucking weird how girls can just tell when our periods start. Like the exact fucking moment. You're just sitting in bed or standing in line for groceries and your face does that kind of thing in That's So Raven, where Raven gets a vision.
Oh, that's so true. You guys should post those on our social accounts.
Yes, we can do that.
Since I've gone off birth control, I've been so much more aware of that feeling because for so many years, like I wouldn't be really bleeding, and so like the other day I was at work and it happened, and I was just like, and I knew exactly what it was, and it's like, and then I feel really proud of myself that I was right. Like I was right.
Like,
I was bleeding.
I know myself. I gotta say, I think I'm like, I feel like I can feel it less. Because one, I feel like I get a lot of false starts where I'm like, oh, this is definitely my period. I better run to the bathroom immediately. And then I get there, there's nothing. I'm like, what am I feeling?
Weird.
Like, it's
Do you
really
feel
weird.
like the
Pre-cramps?
feel of like flow out of your?
Yes.
I feel that sometimes too, and I wonder if that's just like tingling in your pubic hair, maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Do you have pubic hair? You have pubic hair.
I do.
Okay.
I've
I've seen it.
She knows.
I've seen it.
Do
at
you
a
have pubic
spa.
lice?
Yeah. Just kidding. No comment.
Tingling in your pubic hair.
Because I'm
No comment.
Yeah, because I feel like sometimes for me, I don't feel when I know I have my period, I don't feel like the flow, but I feel like the cramp and the like squeeze and the pressure.
Yeah, see, typically now it's like I'll get the light day before I get the cramps. But it's like, that feeling
it.
once you like, that's why I gotta say it's really tough to like have all this knowledge about why I shouldn't use a tampon after having tried a menstrual cup and pads. And like I had a period that was like kind of rocky, so I tried, and I saw a video about how terrible tampons are for the environment, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna use my Diva cup, which is too big for me, we've decided, but all day super uncomfortable. I have to get a smaller one, and then after that I was like, okay, well, I don't want to put anything else at me right now, so I used a pad to sleep, and I hated both because like the pad thing, it's like as I'm sleeping, it just feels like I'm bleeding out.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just not a good feeling.
I mean, yeah, I love tampons and I'm going to keep using them.
yeah.
I think it's good to know what's in them and to know that
Agreed.
there are options. So I don't think people should just be like throwing tampons away. Because I
Yeah.
agree with you. You got to use what feels right to you.
Right. And Meg, maybe
Yeah.
this is a good note to you to stop putting tampons in preemptively.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
read. Yeah, I
Only
read.
use what you need.
Right,
I guess.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say when I use them preemptively, it's like the day that it's going to start and it just hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
Like it's 10 and it might start at 3.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not like walking around for days
Sure.
without them. But yeah,
Yeah.
in the research,
Yeah.
it mentioned
Yeah.
like only use it when you're actively flowing,
Yeah.
basically. But I'm excited to use the other products. Like I know that, I don't know if Diva Cup does this, but I know menstrual cup companies have sizes, so you can figure out
Yeah.
what size works
Right.
best
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
So I think Diva
So-
Cup only has 2 sizes, but I think other companies might have more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to use.
yeah, we should try some.
Yeah.
all the different products.
Yeah.
I'm excited to use this organic tampon to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a short video. It is from one Cameron Esposito, but I basically just typed in like comics that I like period joke to see what popped up. And Cameron Esposito popped up and she was like, men, no need to tell period jokes anymore. I came up with the best one. And then it was a link to this. So
If you think periods are disgusting, you have no idea how disgusting periods actually are. I wake up in the night and I am bleeding out of my body. A crime scene. My body is bleeding out of my body. My body is smashing my body out of my body using my body. Oh, and it doesn't come out in an easy, clean, and pourable substance. So clear. Chunks of my body are coming out of my body. Chunks of my body are being smashed out of my body by my body. Sometimes the chunks are so large, the only logical thing to do is to pick it up and hold it in your hand just so you can marvel at it.
Oh, that's so good. I feel like I've never actually held a chunk of my blood. Have you guys like picked up a
I
chunk?
haven't, but I have marveled at it.
I too have marveled at the viscosity.
Good word.
and the amount, but it's never been in a shape. But I do have a friend who, when she was on a birth control, it was making her period all crazy, and she said that she like I don't even know what the right verb is, evacuated her uterus, and it was like a piece of chicken skin,
Whoa!
but like period color.
Whoa!
But she was just like, it was solid
and thin.
and yeah, and like, but like I think like thick, like
Oh.
and yeah. Anywho, she was like that. I knew I had to change up what I was putting in my body.
Wow.
Vicious cycle.
All right, so now we're gonna do a why I cried this week. Why did I cry this week? Cry this week. Nobody's supposed to be here. When I talk about why I cried this week. So my why I cried this week is very podcast centered. I was re-listening to Nancy because I somehow fell off the wagon that Nancy's had like 2 seasons come out. Nancy's a podcast out of WNYC, and it's hosted by 2 Asian Americans, a gay guy, and then a girl. I think she identifies as bi.
Okay.
Bi or queer.
She's like mostly lesbian.
Yeah,
bisexual.
yeah. It's a great show. And one of the co-hosts, Tobin, interviews Alan Cumming, who has, who has a cabaret show, and he starts talking about, so his show is a lot about being an immigrant, but also about the love of his country of Scotland. But he just said something really beautiful about being Scottish and how over sentimentality is like a big part, a cultural aspect of being Scottish. And he was saying that Celts like are able to handle sentimentality better than Americans. And I like really connected to that as someone that's like half Scotch Irish. Yeah, it was just really sweet. The idea of like sentimentality not being a negative thing.
Yeah.
And being able to just sit with your feelings, like, and be thoughtful and like emotional about things. He said like, Celts, like we cry a lot. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why I cry a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think I take after my dad a lot, who's like full Scotch Irish. Yeah, and he was saying like drinking and over sentimentality are like the 2 favorite pastimes of Scotland. Yeah, it was just really beautiful. It just really hit me. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes we don't know like why we are the way we are,
Right.
and maybe that's not why I'm that way, but maybe it is.
Maybe you were PMSing. No, I'm just kidding.
How dare you get out.
for the last 32 years.
Well, and I think that is really powerful to me, the idea that like it's a trait as opposed to a weakness.
Yeah,
You know?
he was like by definition it's not a negative thing.
Yeah.
He's like, I think we as Celtic people do it better than Americans. We can sit and be like weepy and overly sentimental.
Yeah, we
and
can
people
cry in front
aren't-
of each other.
Yeah, people aren't judging each other for it. And I
Yeah.
was like, whoa. It just really resonated with me.
Aw.
Yeah, it was.
Got
It's
it.
a really sweet interview. I would recommend it. Anywho.
So I've been like probably crying daily based on things I see online, just because there's a lot out there. But today specifically, I was watching clips of old Barbara Walters interviews for reasons I don't have to explain. I don't have to explain myself to you guys. But they showed this one clip and it was only like a minute and a half, and it was talking to Julie Andrews after she had this surgery that hurt her vocal cords. And I like... It was only 2 minutes, and yet I'm like weeping at my computer, and like my husband's like working just like 5 feet away from me, and he like looks over, and I'm just like, because she's like, because I mean, Barbara Walters, she's always like trying to ask the questions that make the tears come, but it was just tell me about the surgery, and Julie Andrews and her like beautiful like lilty voice is like, it wasn't supposed to have any effect on my vocal cords, but yet ever since then I haven't been able to sing. And Barbara Walters is like, so what does that mean for you? And will Julie Andrews ever sing again? And she like sits with it for a second and then says, honestly, I think I'm still in denial. I believe I will, because if I don't have that belief, then I will be devastated. And who am I? And I was just like, oh my God. And she keeps it together. Like she never loses it. So I'm like losing it for her. and then Barbara Walters reads this quote that's like, if something like, if Julie Andrews has lost her voice, then the world has lost the greatest gift, or something like that. And I was just like, I can't.
Because it's like what is it called? Literary, like irony.
Yeah.
What is that literary term called? dramatic irony. Where the audience knows something that the the character doesn't know, and you're like, you won't.
Like, so
ever
I
get to
know
sing
that
again.
her voice didn't come back, and I'm just like, but yeah,
You
she's
sing
just.
"Speak in Princess Diary."
Well, I'm like, just imagine having Julie Andrews' voice and then being told you can't do that, and she was just like, I can't imagine not singing. And then she like remember she was just like, I mean, singing with an orchestra, and then like there's just this like she makes this face that's like she's all of a sudden there with an orchestra singing, and also like the pain of thinking that might not happen. I was just like, it's too much.
Too much.
And that was like a 2-minute clip, guys.
Wow. Speaking of music making you cry, there was a really short clip of a toddler watching a pianist play Moonlight. Is it called Moonlight Sonata? Da-na-na-na-na. It's the first time this kid's heard it, and he's just like weeping at the thought of
a baby.
The music has moved him so much.
No.
That's why I cried 3 days ago.
Yep, that's why I cried, because that's me at every video flash mob, you guys.
No, it's a baby.
It's beautiful.
Well, he's like a toddler. He's maybe like
tears?
two years old. Moved to tears by Moonlight Sonata, and yeah, he's just like stunned by the beauty of this music, and I'm like, baby, I am with you.
Yes.
All right,
Feels good.
feels good to cry.
Meg, thank you so much for that depressing but illuminating information about tampons. And thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for next week when we'll be discussing tampon taboos, and hopefully we're playing some of your phone calls.
Yeah, keep calling us.
Yeah, tell us your stories.
All of them tampon related.
Yeah. And, you know, if you miss us during the week, you can find us on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. We're Vicious Cycle Podcast. Please, you know, rate us 5 stars and review us on iTunes. It really helps get our, you know, message out. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your the bleeders you consider enemies. And, yeah, thanks so much. Remember to keep calm.
And tampon.
It may be primal, it may be vital, but it makes you homicidal. It's a vicious, it's a vicious, it's a vicious cycle.
Our theme song was performed by The Go Ahead. Check out more at thegoaheadmusic.com.